Hey, my name is Ajay. Today we are making banana bread. We're going to be judging 3 different YouTube creators' banana breads. Tasty, the classic, Claire Saffitz, who is basically a baking queen at this point, and Brian Lagerstrom, probably one of the coolest YouTube channels I've ever seen. We're going to be judging these banana breads on 3 different criteria. Number 1, texture. Is it moist? Does it have what bakers call a soft crumb? And is it texturally intriguing? Number 2, we're going to be looking at the flavor. I'm looking for a banana bread that tastes like bananas and not just sugar. And then lastly, number 3, is it a convenient thing to make? Let's do this. First up, tasties. Shablam.
Tasty's recipe is relatively straightforward. First, you're going to mash up your bananas. Now, Tasty had the average amount of bananas in it, and for all the recipes in this video, I used pre-frozen bananas, which is how we keep all overripe bananas in our house. After mashing them, mix all your dry ingredients together, and of all the recipes, Tasty is the one that doesn't include any baking powder, which in the end actually showed as this banana bread was the one to rise the least.
Now the thing that's interesting about the Tasty video is that they want brown butter. That's half a cup of butter. And that's typically when your butter begins to brown. Brown is typically flavor. That looks like Flavor Town.
Then you're going to mix together all your wet ingredients. The actual process of mixing the wet and dry was, I would say, maybe a little bit arduous as well. You have to alternate adding the dry and the wet to the bananas to prevent the banana bread from becoming too dense. This is an additional step, which if I had cooked the banana bread properly, probably wouldn't have mattered that much, since the other 2 recipes that I made didn't utilize this technique and they turned out just fine. The flavors of choice in the Tasty recipe are the classic cinnamon and chocolate chunks. You're going to sprinkle the banana bread with turbinado sugar, which is like in between brown and regular sugar, and bake it for 60 to 70 minutes, not the 50 minutes that I cooked it for. The result is a banana bread that looks like this and actually just smells amazing.
Break them up a bit. Okay, cool.
Next up is the Brian Lagerstrom banana bread. Now, Brian Lagerstrom's yields the most banana bread, and his full recipe requires a slightly bigger than regulation 10x8 bread pan. Like Tasty, his dairy product of choice is sour cream. He opts for a combination of saturated fat, butter, for flavor, and unsaturated fat, oil, for a lighter crumb and contributes to the texture. Brian doesn't actually depend on any warm spices for additional flavor, but opts for the addition of molasses.
So this one definitely has like a deeper smell to it. Like the molasses has that kind of bitter, earthy kind of smell to it. That could really possibly be a good thing. Okay, dry ingredients.
You're going to mix everything together, your wet and your dry, and you're not going to have to worry about adding them one after the other. His normal version of banana bread stops here, but I wanted to test his optimal version, which is the everything banana bread. After roasting a selection of nuts and seeds for about 15-ish minutes, you add them to your banana bread with chocolate chunks and bake it for an additional 60 minutes. The result is a beautifully risen banana bread that actually didn't fall after baking. It's dark and definitely looks more like bread than the others. What do you think?
So my wife told me about this place in Hawaii called Lorraine's. Apparently she makes the best banana bread in Maui. Took a trip there, went on some mopeds all the way over there, and Lorraine was closed. We don't know that. We don't know that it's true. Anyways.
Last but not least is Claire Saffitz banana bread recipe. Claire has us prepare a regular sized loaf pan using coconut oil instead of cooking spray, which makes sense because that will be her fat of choice. In her dry ingredient mix, Claire opts for all the same culprits as Brian Lagerstrom, but where Claire differentiates herself from the pack is her use of cardamom instead of cinnamon.
Mixy-do.
Cardamom is sort of like a citrusy fennel flavor, which is definitely a bit different from cinnamon. Really excited to see how this one turns out. Now, unlike Tasty and Brian, Claire's fat choice, like I alluded to, is coconut oil instead of butter. Now, depending on the kind of butter you use, this is actually a more expensive choice. Claire's recipe also is the only recipe that uses white sugar instead of the caramelly kind of dark notes of brown sugar. And this makes sense since she's using a more subtle supporting cast of flavors like coconut and almond. The last piece that makes Claire's recipe unique is her use of a marble drizzle on top of her banana bread. Mixing almond butter, coconut, sugar, and a bit of salt, she puts together this kind of perfect contrast of salty and sweet.
You cannot not be excited about that.
Which should really play well with the warm kind of spice of the cardamom in the banana bread. Once it's baked off at 350 for around 60 minutes, your banana bread should look something like this. I mean, just look at the crackly top on this. And it smells delicious too.
Guess what I forgot to put in one of the recipes? The flaxseed. Now I got a lot of flaxseed that I need to use, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. It's like too healthy, man. Anyways, time to clean up the mess that I made. Mess. Anyone want to help? Please? Okay, folks, so we have the tasty one on this side, Brian Lagerstrom's right in the middle here, and the Claire Saffitz version on this side. Butter for both of these, the main fat in this one being coconut oil. Both of these two have the mix-ins, whereas this one is the kind of classic. Visually, the Claire Saffitz one looks really interesting, especially with the swirls, the kind of craggles. The height award definitely belongs to the Brian Lagerstrom one. Yeah, this tasty one kind of fell flat, but it does have that turbinado sugar on there, which I'm assuming has that kind of nice, crispy bite to it. It is late. It is currently 1:21 in the morning. I'm gonna go to sleep, let these all cool down properly, and we'll have a bite of them tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye. It is a day later. First step is the tasty version. Maybe undercook this one just a touch. Nice banana smell. So here we go. Tasty banana bread, turbinado sugar on the top. Wow, definitely very moist. Let me take a second bite. I mean, is it better than your average banana bread? Probably. As far as texture, it's got a nice crumb. Again, outside of the gummy part at the bottom where I kind of screwed it up. Turbinado sugar on the top, low key, high key. Does that make sense? The textural contrast of that, I love that. It's kind of got the apple streusel kind of thing going on. Very reminiscent of like childhood. Even a day later, it's still got that crunch to it. What would I give this one? Texture, I would say 8 out of 10 on that one. Flavor-wise, definitely banana forward. Yeah, I guess this one had the middle amount of banana compared to Claire's, which only used 1 cup of banana. This said 2 cups of banana. I'm getting that hint of cinnamon without it being overpowering. And the brown butter, I'm not sure that I notice it, but there is maybe like a undertone of nuttiness in there. We'll have to taste it against the other ones, but I really like the flavor. I would give it probably an 8 again out of 10. And as far as convenience, maybe a 7 out of 10. The brown butter takes a little bit of time. If you use the microwave, it might speed up the whole process. Just saying. Right off the top of the bat, babe, what is it?
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. Right off the bat. Brian Lagerstrom's definitely gives like a more bready vibe than the other two. The other two kind of turned out rectangular, whereas Brian Lagerstrom's has that nice height on it, even cook right throughout. You definitely smell that molasses. Let's try that. Not as sweet. It kind of eats more like a bread, slightly more savory. This is the kind of banana bread that you would probably eat with butter. Yeah, what do I say about this? Texturally, there's a lot more things going on. There's the nuts, poppy seeds, sesame seed, little bits of chocolate strewn throughout the bread. I like the textural contrasts. I like the fact that there is this kind of crust, soft crumb, it's there. I would probably give this a 9 in texture. I love it. As far as flavor, I mean, this is a different kind of banana bread you could legitimately have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it's not that sweet. I'm eating this and I don't kind of feel sick afterwards. I could probably go for another bite, which I really like. It's a banana-y. Despite having 6 bananas in it, I'm not getting as much banana flavor from this one as I did from the tasty one, which is kind of interesting. But I really think that the molasses really kind of counterbalance the sweetness of the bananas. I would say this one, banana is definitely taking a back seat to everything else that's happening in here. As far as banana flavor, I'll probably give this one like a 7.5. Not as banana forward, but again, more of that savory notes in it. I definitely have some in my teeth. As far as convenience, not much different. One of the things that might be more convenient is that Brian puts his recipe in grams, so you can just basically weigh everything into the bowl. I think Brian makes it more simple than Tasty. Tasty's had you like putting the wet, putting the dry, putting the wet, putting the dry. Brian Lagerstrom, it's just, here's your wet things, here's your dry things, put them together, and wasn't really fussy about it. What number am I gonna give that? Let's say probably a 9. It's definitely more convenient than the previous one. Also aesthetically, just like a little bit prettier. Brian Lagerstrom's, pretty delicious. Final up, last up, Claire Saffitz, even all the way through with that kind of nice crust on the outside. I love the top, how it has all those craggles and nooks and crannies. That is really cool. Aesthetically just looks super pleasing. Like a knife through banana bread. Am I right? Lindsay just gave me a look. Are you an idiot? Though she would never say that to me because she loves me. Right at the top of the drawer. Nice even cook. This is a center cut too, so this is where you really see whether or not it was cooked properly. Let's give it a taste. That is night and day. So light and so fluffy. I was really going for Brian there. Sheesh, that's really good. I'm out of words right now. And just a little salty on the top. Shoot. Okay, as far as texture, so this part is kind of like crustier. You get to the middle and it's nice and moist. And then you get to that top bite there, and there you get like a different textural crunch akin to like maybe like a brittle or something like that, with that, you know, kind of punchy almond flavor with the right amount of salt. Like she nailed the salt level on that. You taste the almond and then you just get like a little bit of a crunch salt crunch. I don't know. Texturally, this is the best one. 10 out of 10 for sure. Love it. Surprisingly, for the amount of banana in here, this has the least amount of banana, but you are getting a subtle, not like back seat, but like front seat to the side. Passenger seat banana bread. This just feels like everything is working in harmony. Claire's is the only recipe that doesn't use brown sugar, and I think that lack of molasses really allows kind of the banana flavor to come forward. The cardamom, it's like a subtle aroma that hits you right before you bite it, and it's really, really enjoyable. That's pretty much exactly what I would want in a banana bread, right there with the flavor. Convenience, same amount, I would say, as probably the Tasty. A little bit less because you don't have to make the brown butter. So I would say like an 8 or a 9, somewhere in there. I feel like the only thing that Claire's recipe does differently is creating the almond swirl, which when you think about it, it's not that much work. You already have the almond butter. You mix a little bit of sugar with a little bit of salt, with a little bit of coconut oil, which is what you're using anyways. That swirl is the world of difference, honestly. Yeah, so that's those breads, man. Like that is really, really, really good. So you should be making the Claire Saffitz version of banana bread. If you like these recipe comparison videos, please let me know down in the comments below, or do whatever you want. I try my very best to get to all comments and respond to them, even the haters. Love you haters. I think I might have another video that you might want to watch, like this one right, yeah, yeah. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Eat a glass of milk.